Hey, Pav, remember when you were all about this?
The next step was to look for possible suspects who had the motive, capability, and proximity to actually be involved in this crime.
Yeah, and you claimed proximity was a big deal.
My deep dive into all of the families in the case and where they had all lived at one point in Coeur d'Alene. And I mentioned that Coeur d'Alene was a key. We just need to take a closer look, I think, up there in Coeur d'Alene. You can see this is the city of Coeur d'Alene, located on a pretty lake. Its population 56,000 people. Now you'll notice I have a green circle there in the middle of Coeur d'Alene with an arrow pointed to it. This is a close-up version of that space with the arrow was pointed to. At one point in time, Ben Mogan lived right where he is pictured on the map. And I can only assume that Maddie lived with him there at least part of the time. So that's interesting. Then I found out that at a certain period of time, Kara Knodel lived right there in Coeur d'Alene. And I'm certain that Xana stayed with her at least some of the time. You'll see at the bottom Miss Corey Hatrock, and she lived there. And right near Kara's house, you'll find the Gonzalez lived right there, and I'm pretty sure that Kaylee lived there with them. So all of them lived within 1.5 to 3 miles of each other in a strange little triangle right there in the center of Coeur d'Alene. I mean, it would seem that if they all lived that close and that small of a town, that everybody would have known each other.
In fact, you went through great lengths to try to prove that because of proximity, that the parents of the girls all knew each other and that they knew several people in drug cartels. All because of proximity. Even when you had a lot of those addresses wrong.
This big red X that you see right in the almost center of the triangle. You see, all of these family members actually, where they lived, encompasses this red X. And this red X is very important. When you're trying to connect people in a mystery, in a puzzle, you go to things that you can verify and things that would stick out, that would make people associate themselves to another person. And I've showed you this golden triangle around the intersection of I-90 and Highway 95, which by all measures has been designated a high-intensity drug trafficking route by the federal organizations. And then all the family members at one point had lived within a couple of miles of each other, encompassing this area. So proximity says they all know each other. And, we see the residence date from 2007 to 2020. And then the second residence date was 2002 to 2019. So dual residences during that entire time. And, I guess you could move and keep your other one and rent it out. Rental property is always a good investment. But is it the location of that second property that really holds its advantages? I-90 corridor right there. Man, I tell you what, that's in a pretty interesting spot. Oh, looky up there. Is that where I-90 meets Highway 95? That high intensity drug trafficking area, isn't it? Well, let's see. Here's what is this? This is 4th Street. I don't know. I think somebody lives just right down the road from there. Hey, what is this? This is what is this right here? Oh, looky there. There's there's where Xana worked at the steakhouse. Wow. Man, I'll tell you what, Xana worked at that steakhouse not a couple of blocks from that second address there. I mean, I wonder if they ever ran into each other. I know he said, they didn't know each other, but if you were to take a drive 6 miles from her house, you would run into his house up there at Ramsey Road in Rathdrum, Idaho. So they live within 6 miles of each other, and it said that they held those dual addresses, coinciding each other for at least 6 or 7 years. Considering there's only one grocery store I could find in Rathdrum, I mean, I would have to think that they would even run into each other at the grocery store from time to time. Appear like perhaps Slocum and Cervantes are very familiar with each other because they lived in the same general area around Eugene, Oregon for it may be really quite some time. But my strongest connection, I thought, was with Mr. Gill because of his familial connection with Eugene. But who needs a familial connection when you have all but proof of residence with a documented speeding violation from Mr. Gill? You can see in Lane County, Oregon, and this was in 2020. If you're as curious as I was to figure out where Lane County, Oregon is, then you'll be excited to see this. You see, this is Lane County, Oregon, and you can see right smack dab in the middle of Lane County, Oregon is none other than Eugene, Oregon. So, yeah, we've got documented evidence that Bryson Gill lived in Eugene, Oregon. So, just a few miles up the road from Eugene, you can see Vida right there in Lane County as well. So that means that Miss Kelly Farley likely knows Gill, may even know Cervantes and Slocum. In fact, probably knows all of them very well, which means you can wrap this case in a bow.
But now that you think Moscow police is trying to do that, to build a case against Koberger, suddenly you're against proximity.
And what this is this is putting Ethan right here at a certain time making a withdrawal from an ATM. So you can bet they're going to try to put Koberger in the same general area doing something around the same time. This is how they're going to try to paint a picture of a nexus between Koberger and the victims. So they're going to take all these purchases that they made, place them at the store they made them at the time they made them to try to get a connection between Koberger and the victims. Here it is right here at Jefferson and Spotswood Street. And then when you zoom it out, that puts him right here making this withdrawal, which is right next to where DM and Ethan and Maddie made withdrawals. So again, they're trying to put him right here in this general area with the victims. And you can see on the extended map, puts it right here, just a couple of blocks from where Koberger was making a withdrawal down here at a different ATM. So what they're doing is they're taking this little stretch of area and they're saying, well, Koberger was here buying stuff, here making ATM withdrawal, and the victims were all here, and here, and they're going to try to correlate his times with theirs. Well, Koberger's in there buying something when BF, Maddie, Xana, DM, and Kaylee are all in there shopping together buying something as well. And they'll say, look, here it is. We got him. He's in this store almost at the same time they are. And big deal. It's a grocery store. Over a long enough period of time, I'm sure everybody would be at a store similar times than anybody else that lives in the area. But that's what they're going to try to do. They're plugging it on the map right here, and you can see the Winco. It's just the building at the end of the same mall with all these other same stores in it.
And déjà vu.
Have we not met before, monsieur?
Showed you this golden triangle.
Isn't that interesting?
All their ATM withdrawals from different ATMs so they can put them at certain places at certain times. They've been trying to create a nexus on Brian Koberger through these many different things with these bank records for a long time, it seems. Or they've been trying to match them up with them and somebody. The trial, folks, they don't have anything else. That's what you're going to find. They have nothing else. And I'm going to show you in part 2 of this video that they have worked themselves to death to just create some BS and make it look like a nexus. It is unbelievable. Well, then why would you have to go through and reach for the stars to try to create any possible connection you could possibly create from Brian Koberger to the victims?
Seems kind of hypocritical. I don't know. Maybe not. What do you guys think? I think it's a little hypocritical.